course, we were off, and I was off with my ship on continuing my deployment. So it's just interesting how small our world is. There's more stories that he can share at some point about that day. It's pretty fascinating to be a part of that history. That's a sea story. All right, next slide. Now this, I think Councillor Coughlin, I talked about what I was going to update the council on. This is it. So this is the initial concept for the sculpture. And so right here, this is for the Quincy Square. That is a likeness of Quincy Jones, woven metal strips. Now these, as you can see, some of the footnotes at the bottom, approximately 7 feet high. And that's what we have here kind of gives you a kind of what it's going to look like. That's the 3 humans there are for scale. So just some background on how we got here. The Arts Commission convened an ad hoc committee to select an artist for the sculpture on Quincy Square. The committee has worked over the last year and a half to write a call to artists. Important themes of the call included the creation of a keystone artwork that celebrates Quincy Jones, music, and African American history. The call to artists was released in the fall of 2023. Dozens of artists submitted qualifications, and the committee selected 6 finalists to present concepts for the sculpture. James and Michael were selected, and this is James Din and Michael Stutz. Were selected from the finalists and have an extensive resume of public art installations. Staff has begun working on contractual details with the artist team, and a contract will come to you, council, for approval in the coming months. The image shared is the initial concept for the sculpture and may change as the project develops. There may be opportunities for public participation in the development of the final sculpture plans. All right. That concludes tonight's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler. Next, we will go to the consent agenda with Clerk Hoover.
Thank you, President Chamberlain. For approval on the consent agenda are the following items. A, claims and check register. Approval of the following checks and electronic fund transfers. 1, check numbers 406-426 through 406-601 and EFT numbers V40603 through V40700 and the grand total amount of $1,148,664.99. 2, regular payroll for pay period ending March 15th, 2024, in the amount of $1,108,151.07. 3, regular payroll payout for pay period ending March 15th, 2024, in the amount of $20,886.96. 4, retiree payroll for pay period ending March 31st, 2024, in the amount of $34,090.43. B, minutes of meeting March 20th, 2024. C, minutes of study session March 27th, 2024. D, confirm reappointment of Holly James to the Civil Service Commission. E, street lighting conservation grant agreement with Puget Sound Energy for LED retrofit phase 1. F, acceptance of Department of Commerce Local and Community Projects Program Grant and agreement for the Admiral Theater Facility Improvements Project and budget adjustment. G, goods and services agreement with Cummins Inc. for emergency power generation equipment at multiple city water supply sites. And H, 2024 through 2025 City Council goals and priorities. This concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
And Clerk Hoover, before I ask for public comment, I don't know, I didn't hear it, but somebody, but one of the counselors thought maybe that the amount for 4A was read wrong. Would you please read that amount just one more time? I apologize. We're just looking in our packet, just in case.
$2,148,664.99.
Thank you very much. Just for clarification, just in case. Okay, does any member of the public wish to comment on any one of these items?
Hi, I'm Mike Simpson. I live in District 6. And I'm kind of surprised that the council doesn't want to have the council goals and priorities put out in the public venue. I mean, it's on the consent agenda, but this would be something that you would want the rest of the public to see presented in a format where we have people. I understand that you've talked about this at your study session, and it's available on BCAT and it's available on the internet. But if your goals and priorities, if one of the goals and priorities is public outreach, why are you not presenting that to the public? And it seems counterproductive to do that. And I suppose, if it took 4.5 minutes to get the council to take action 2 weeks ago, I could probably do it in 40 seconds.
Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to comment on one of the items on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I will go to the, Roy Runyon, go right ahead.
All right, can you all hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just a question about the lighting project, which is great. It will make or reduce our operational costs. And I'm assuming there's no expansion to the number of lights. They're all going to be existing fixtures. I think that's what I read. Secondly, regarding the city council goals, I did listen in during your retreat. I did listen in via Zoom. I do agree with Mr. Simpson. This should be a general business item so that you can actually present in detail. This is important. If it is important, it should be something, a separate agenda item, not a consent agenda item. To be specific regarding the city council goals, I was kind of disappointed in regarding the housing, and we have a huge struggle with affordable housing availability. Only Councilmember Goodnow, mentioned that the way to do this is to increase our stock to reduce the cost. Instead, several council members want to double down on regulation. So I'm concerned about that. That is not going to help us get more affordable housing. So what happens if you get more affordable housing, you have sufficient supply, people have choices. Now there aren't many choices. And then the suggestion that I made that someone else suggested to me regarding the pre-approved plans for accessory dwelling units like Seattle does, the administration pushed back on that. I'm disappointed that none of the council members pushed back and said, hey, why can't the administration make this happen today? So there was an opportunity that it's not lost because you can revisit that, but that was a little thing that could have been done to facilitate developers, individual property owners putting in additional housing units. So kind of disappointed in that. Let me just see here, the additional item on that. But so I'm concerned. Also, the street maintenance funding, and this connects with the Warren Avenue Bridge. I'm not going to talk to that. That's a separate agenda item, but that should be the priority. Maintaining our existing infrastructure. We have potholes there we are not fixing properly. I can show any of you that these potholes are not being fixed properly. They're being partially filled. They're not crack sealed, which means that next winter time, when the water gets in
30 seconds
around there, those potholes will come undone. And so there's a continuing maintenance problem. So we need to look at that. We supposedly have a new pothole guy in Public Works. I don't know if we've seen the results of that hire yet, but again, it'll be interesting to see what specifics and how you actually implement your policy and goals. And again, this should be a general business item. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to comment on one of the items on the consent agenda? Okay. All right. Seeing none, I will go to council for a motion. Councilor Fry.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and seeing no further discussion, let's vote on the consent agenda.
Councilmember Fry,
Yes.
Coughlin,
Yes.
Grabowski,
Yes.
Mochler,
Yes.
Younger,
Yes.
and Chamberlain.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Next up is public recognition. As noted on the agenda, public recognition provides an opportunity for attendees to address the council on any issue not already on tonight's agenda. Again, there will be no public comments accepted via Zoom tonight, except for any special requests, which it sounds like there weren't any made. And this is also a reminder that it's election season, so please refrain from any endorsements for or comments about candidates or ballot measures. And with that, you're welcome to line up at the podium to be recognized. We just ask that you state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. As she's getting ready for her 3 minutes, and so that everybody is treated equally, 3 minutes. And we have a light system, which maybe I should have prefaced before. The green light means go. Yellow light means you have 30 seconds. Red light means I have to be the bad guy and say next. Okay. And with that, feel free to begin.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Carolyn Stein. I'm the Executive Director for the Washington State Science and Engineering Fair. I want to thank you all for having me back one more time in public recognition to talk about the fair, which is this Friday and Saturday at the Bremerton High School. And it starts at 8:30 on Friday morning, and it starts at 7:30 on Saturday. That's for the students to come and register. The rest of us can sleep in a little bit, and you can show up right about 9 or 10 and really enjoy the day. There'll be hands-on activities, and a lot will be going on. And I know that 2 weeks ago when I was here, I was sharing about the International Space Station. However, we were contacted by NASA. They said, we're so sorry. It's never happened before, but we will not be able to connect to the astronauts on the aboard the International Space Station due to the Soyuz Russian ship docking that same weekend. So I apologize to everyone. We were very excited, but we are the science fair, and therefore we have a plan B. So this is what we're going to do instead. Okay. We come to the fair. We will have postcards that will be there on a table for you. You can write a message. You can draw a picture. You can do whatever your heart desires. We're going to gather them all up. We're going to put them on a ship. They're going to the International Space Station. And then they're going to be, since they're being self-addressed, they will be mailed back to you with a mark that says flown in space. So not only will you be able to have something of history, something that's been flown into space, but you'll be able to come to the science fair and really have a good time. The United States Patent and Trademark Office will be there. United States Army's coming. They're bringing their big van, a $750,000 EOD robot, come drive around some of your tax money. There's a lot of things to do. The Tacoma Astronomical Society will be there. They're going to do stump rockets. They're going to have a telescope. Hopefully, we'll be able to look at the sun. That means the clouds have to cooperate. Another one of those space things I got to figure out. But come and see if it happens, okay? So again, it's free to the public. You're all welcome to attend. It is the 67th annual
30 seconds.
67th annual Washington State Science and Engineering Fair. It started here. It stays here. It's in your backyard. Come and be a part of history, and let's send postcards to space. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stein.
Hi, Joe Walter. Again, want to bring the conversation or continue the conversation about Gaza. I appreciate that it went to the study session for a temperature check. And I'm disappointed that we're not all here tonight because I had an issue with one of the council members who suggested that the reason it was being brought to your attention was in some sort of response or reaction to a recent resolution that was passed. It just felt pretty disrespectful to imagine that something of this level of import could be so that we could be petty in our thinking about it. In truth, we had intended to bring this to a request for a resolution much earlier. And when the definition process, the adoption of the definition process went on, it didn't feel appropriate to be bringing both of these issues at the same time. So we stopped. And in the meantime, there was advocacy days in Olympia and other things. At the moment, we are intending to bring you a resolution to consider, but not before we've got some signatures on a petition. Because you are our representatives, we want you to know how people feel. So we'll be able to demonstrate how people feel with a petition. But all of this means work on the part of a lot of volunteers. We had a fundraiser that raised $6,600 for Gaza humanitarian aid. And heartbreakingly, and you may know that there were aid workers who were killed and by the Israeli army, and they have shut down their operations along with other humanitarian aid providers. So we're deciding what to do with those funds. To make a further case for why it is the business of local city councils, it impacts us. The decisions of our federal government do have an impact on what happens locally. You are our voice. You can help to amplify the voice of your constituents with federal legislators, and we're counting on you to do that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. My name is Kale Naino, Asantisa, Bremerton resident. I would like to thank all you guys for your guys' persistence and helping the community. I really appreciate it. I do see a lot of progress, and I love it. And it makes my outdoor experience even more better, and I really do appreciate it. Keep doing it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm Mike Simpson. I live in District 6. And again, the council president has chosen not to have the Pledge of Allegiance or an invocation on the agenda tonight. I find that disappointing. So in an effort to help inspire you to do that, I'm going to do two things tonight. First, I'd like to have members of the audience, and if the council wishes to, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with justice for all. Now, I'd also like to remind you that since you don't do an invocation, you don't have people that come in and just say some nice words about you and about the city and about how the city operates. I find that galling. I mean, I, as someone who lives in this city, want people to come in and talk about how great Bremerton is. But you choose not to. So I'll give you an invocation tonight. Lord God, referred to in the preamble of our state constitution as the benevolent creator of the universe, find it in your heart, find it in your mercy to open the hearts of our city council members and allow them to be more accepting and more inclusive and more diverse by allowing people to come in and do an invocation that says nice things about how the city operates and how people live here. Make them understand, Lord. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to come up for public recognition? Okay. Seeing that, I will now close public recognition and move on to general business. Okay, so we have another opportunity for public comment on the Warren Avenue Multimodal Bridge Project. So in the back, Hopefully those of you who are here have noticed there's a packet. It's a lengthy packet, but some of it is information that has already been presented. A lot of it really is. There's a cover letter by me that just basically gives you kind of your assignment for today, if you choose to accept it. Of course, this is public comment. We're not going to restrict what you say and what you aren't going to say, but the ask is to help us come up with a backup plan. And what we need is a formal opportunity for folks to state which alternative that is within budget is the one that they like the least. Now, we're still waiting to hear back. There are conversations and questions being asked at higher levels. And what we're hoping is that we'll have some good news to share with you in a week or two. In the meantime, we need to have a backup plan from the 12x8 alternative, which is over budget. We don't have the $3 million secured. So feel free to, I'm not going to read everything to you. The packet's there. And hopefully you'll let us know which alternative you like the least, alternative 1 or alternative 7, or anything else you'd like to comment on related to the Warren Avenue Multimodal Bridge project. And with that, same thing, please line up, say your name. Light system, green means go, yellow means 30 seconds, and red means stop.
My name is Charlie Michelle. I'm a retired professional engineer, formerly licensed in the state of Alaska, and I now live in Bremerton. And so these are my comments on the project. Focusing on cost here, it's 25% contingency. I still can't get over that. It just seems very high. This bridge has been studied quite a bit already. And I contrast this with my former company developing oil fields, where we carried a 10 to 15% contingency. We know far more about a bridge that we can see with our own eyes than an oil reservoir 2 miles in the ground. Closer to home, the Paulsbo Roundabout and Tunnel Project carried a 10% contingency. Now, it's my understanding from looking around that the WashDOT's normal contingency is 4%. So confused as to this 25%. And then as far as the U-bit machine goes, I still think requiring us to buy this U-bit that would only be supposedly used on our bridge, A62T, is egregious. There would be more state bridges where it can be used. Oregon DOT has an A62T and they like it. They use it. And at most, we should only pay the difference for that A62T versus A62. And if WashDOT won't agree to that, then we can rent an A62T from an outfit in Springfield, Oregon. I think our Public Works Committee should meet with WashDOT in person, not this email back and forth, and go over the paperwork, the calculations, and challenge them on some of their, what I would call inherent inconsistencies in their documentation. So as far as what to exclude, I believe the 8 foot on either side share use path should be eliminated. It's unsafe for everyone. Cyclists moving southbound, it will be going downhill and they'll have some speed. And 12 foot is just a minimum safe width. I've experienced this myself on the 10-foot wide I-90 and I contrast that. It's so much nicer on the 14-foot wide 520 bridge, especially as you're going downhill. And most cyclists will be encouraged then to use the east side on our bridge. So let's work through this around the table in person with WashDOT, where we can show them these inconsistencies within their own documents and hopefully come to consensus on costs. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got to quit meeting like this. Thank you, President Chamberlain and Council, for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm Diane Iverson, resident of Bremerton and a former member of the Warren Avenue Bridge Stakeholders Advisory Committee since spring of 2021, 3 very long years ago. This week is spring break for many students throughout Washington, including Bremerton School District. Family time takes priority over attending city council meetings. You have asked for community input on the Warren Avenue Bridge design tonight. You've already received an incredible amount of information from the community that can help direct you over the next couple of weeks. Let me take this time to review some of that information that the public has shared with you already. In April of 2023, an online survey was completed by over 400 individuals. Only 16% of those individuals supported 8-foot sidewalks. 70% of the individuals supported 10 feet or greater, and 2/3 of those wanted 12 or 14. The community has already made it clear what they prefer and what they don't want. Research supports the community's decision to want wider paths on the Warren Avenue Bridge. The current WashDOT standard recommended it for bridges is a minimum of 12 feet. I concur with all that standard. So who is most vulnerable when the sidewalk path is 8 feet or less? Is it the cyclist? No. Is it the runner? No. It is our most vulnerable, our children, our elderly, and our disabled. As someone who walks with a cane on 2 prosthetic legs, I live this each and every day. But when I walk on the SR 520 floating bridge on Lake Washington with its 14-foot path, I feel safe. Cyclists, runners, and walkers can all safely pass me. That's why it's called a shared use path. One of your alternatives listed on your timeline is alternative 1, 8-foot sidewalks on both sides of the bridge, a design supported by WashDOT since March of 2021 and still supported by WashDOT. Based on my own personal experience, the extensive research available to all of us, and the existing WashDOT standards, I recommend you take the alternative 1 off the table. Again, take alternative 1 off the table. Yes, it is symmetrical, but it is dangerous as well, and symmetry does not and should not override safety. Bremerton deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alden Bradford. I'm a math professor at Olympic College. I also live here. I want to build on something Diane just said about symmetry, because I know one of the appealing things about alternative 1 is it has a balance to it. But as much as I like symmetry, I kind of want to think about symmetry on a bigger level, because we have 2 bridges in this town, right? We also have the Manette Bridge, and that one's got a wide path on one side and not on the other. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't make the Warren Avenue Bridge symmetrical with that and also have a wide pathway on one side of it. That was all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Runyon, go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, a big, very expensive public works project. It's nice that the state government has chipped in so much. It is their bridge after all. I'm concerned the bridge is structurally deficient and has been for years, and that's why the annual inspection requirement. A couple of things, just maybe to help you folks focus your efforts and as we work with our legislators. You need to identify the center of gravity. Who is making the decision at WashDOT regarding these additional requirements they put in to purchase the inspection truck for the catwalk and that type of thing? You know, it's very interesting. We have drone technology, which we know there's a conflict going on right now, and drone technology is kind of at the forefront of that. But drones can carry all kinds of sensors, visual, they can carry ground penetrating radar, infrared, all kinds of things. And it just shows a lack of imagination as far as WashDOT is concerned regarding the fact that, you know, not to look at vendors with drone technology that can actually achieve the inspection without the infrastructure, you know, namely the inspection truck and the catwalk. That just seems kind of silly to me. But I think I supported alternative one. You know, the Rolling Stones had a song, I'm sure some of you will remember that. I guess I'm dating myself. You can't always get what you want, you get what you need. That was a line Mick Jagger sang. We have limited funds. If the Climate Commitment Act is sent down the toilet, which it probably should be because of the governor's malfeasance in providing correct information regarding the cost of that to our driving public, the $500,000 will be missing. So the gap is there. Alternative one does provide the closest we can get to putting this together. I am not in favor of bonding because what we're doing is we're tying up revenue, general fund revenue or revenue into the streets to pay for that bond, both principal and interest. If we're going to bond, why don't we bond for actually maintaining our existing infrastructure? So it's a difficult thing, but we need to maintain our focus on the existing infrastructure. It'd be nice if we can actually expand those sidewalks. 8-foot wide sections would be great. Put in the code that bicyclists have to dismount when passing pedestrians. That is not a big sacrifice for bicyclists. That'd be very simple. They could use 8-foot wide sidewalks, dismount when approaching pedestrians, and that would be a reasonable thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. My name is Kalei Naino, Asantista, Bremerton resident. And I hear the public's choices, and I believe you guys will make the right decision because it's beautiful out there. I mean, you guys know, and you guys all love it. So I know you guys will make the right decision. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments online? Okay. Does any other member of the public? Thank you. Come on up.
Hi. I'm Mike Simpson. I live in District 6. You might know me by now. We've talked about this bridge extensively. It's not a new issue. The bridge has been here for, oh gee, I don't know, a lot longer than I've been alive. And that's saying a long time. So when we talk about this bridge and we talk about the money that's involved, one of the options that we looked at before was making it symmetrical with the Manette Bridge and putting the walkway and multimodal path on one side of the bridge and deleting the other, because it made the most sense. It fit everybody's needs and it cost the least amount of money. And it didn't require us to expand both sides of the bridge. So why did we get away from this cost-effective, common sense approach to taking care of our infrastructure and go to this amalgamation of, for lack of a better word, Bolshevik? And that's a word. You can look it up. And some of you who are familiar with Marxist principles know exactly what Bolshevik is. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, Joey Hayes, Bremerton resident. We've been talking about the bridge for a while now, and I think so. We make the comparison to the Manette Bridge, but in terms of having a path only on one side, the Warren Avenue Bridge is not the Manette Bridge. It's in a very different place with a lot more traffic. There's not some place that you can easily cross right at the beginning and the end. So having a path just on one side might cause people to cross against traffic. We know that they could go to the crosswalk, but we also know that people don't. That being said, at least one side has to be wide. The option at least has to be provided. People dismounting from their bicycles Sure, they could. But that means we're squeezing past each other, which, as it was said already, puts vulnerable people at risk. And if somebody needs to dismount from a bicycle, how's a stroller getting past? How's a double stroller getting past? How is somebody with a stroller passing somebody in a wheelchair? Are we having to like squeeze past that? That needs to not happen. And that being said, I think symmetry is the least of our concerns. I've never really thought that aesthetics mattered more than practicality and safety. And I think the only reason for them being symmetrical is aesthetics. That option one, keeping the 8-foot paths, that should be thrown away, because we're doing this now and we have the opportunity to make this ADA accessible, which it currently is not. And we should, because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Naomi Levine, Bremerton resident. So I was thinking about the thought that was proposed of dismounting your bike in order to share an 8-foot space with a person walking on the sidewalk. And I don't know if this has been thought through particularly well, but if you dismount a bike, you take up more space than you do when you're on the bike, because now you are two objects instead of one. Not that I'm objectifying people. I apologize for that. But you are now two entities and instead of one. And so if you dismount the bike, that's actually worse and takes up more of the limited 8-foot space. So it kind of seems like maybe option one definitely is the worst. And also suggesting that cyclists should dismount in order to make more space in a limited amount of space physically makes no space. And it's nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. You don't take up less space by getting off your bike. You take up more space by getting off your bike. That's all.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, there's nothing online. No other members of the public for public recognition on the Warren Avenue project. Okay. I will close public recognition, and there's going to be extra packets on the back table, so please feel free to take them, distribute them to people if you want to. We're going to do this again in 2 weeks. And also tune into our study session, because we're going to process your feedback. There's other written feedback we'll be processing as well. And we appreciate the continued feedback that we're receiving, in addition to the years of feedback that we've been receiving on this item. Okay,
I'm sorry, Madam President, this is Judge Flood. I just had a question. I couldn't get to the button to raise my hand, but on this subject, if it's possible to ask a question.
Well, now it's not. I've just closed public recognition. Judge Flood, could you, we won't be able to answer questions, but I'm going to go ahead and open it back up so you can make a comment.
Okay. So just in consideration for the bridge, and maybe this is something that can happen with discussions for the next time, is if the city is receiving state and federal funds, what are the requirements that we have as a city to receive those funds for the functioning of the bridge?
Yeah, I definitely encourage you to reach out to our Public Works Director, Tom Nucky, to get clarifying information on the funds that we have received. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to reclose public recognition for good for today, not for good. I shouldn't say for good, because I want y'all back in a couple weeks. And we're going to move on to council reports. So actually, I apologize. I said I'm closing public recognition, but I meant public comment on general business. So let's move on to council reports. This is the first council meeting of the month, so guess who's up first? Counselor Fry.
Thank you. This Saturday, I'm going to be attending a memorial service at Baton Park, which is my little park up in the north end of my district. It's a memorial park, and this, of course, is in memorial for all those who were lost in the Baton Death March. A lot of Filipino Americans were lost, as well as Filipinos, and some of those family members we have here in Bremerton now. So it's going to be a sad day, and yet one that reminds us of those sacrifices that are made. And it also makes even a big thing like a bridge seem petty. But it is a big deal. I'm never going to stop saying it's a big deal, this bridge. It's important to us, and we want to do the right thing. Timing is everything. We've allowed a little bit of extra time, not just for public comment, but because we have state legislators that are trying to, do whatever they can to rustle up some money. Who knows, right? You never say it can't happen. Dreams can come true. So we have wrestled the subject. I really want, I want to thank Jeff Coughlin for the work that he's put in. There's a frequently asked questions, a 3-pager, I think, at the back of the packet. And it's a really, we have talked and talked and talked and talked. And this is a really good document to take a glance at if you just want to get a quick view. It's really good to introduce the subject to people. So we aren't taking the decision lightly, as you can see, and I'm looking forward to it. And I believe Director Nucky when he says they are really looking forward to getting started on this bridge. It's an exciting thing for Bremerton. It's not going to be fun while it's happening, but once it's completed, I'm really looking forward to walking across it for the first time. So, hopefully on a 12-foot side. Oops. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, District 3, Jeff Coughlin.
Thank you, Council President. No slides or nothing prepared today, but there's a lot of great public comments. So I figure I'll just spend a few minutes responding to it. Starting with the mayor, I want to echo the kudos to John Vizina. He's been a fantastic partner on WashDOT. When you said not only handling annoying people like me in government, but especially the public. So big kudos there, and to Representative Greg Nance for really taking the lead on the ferries in this legislative session and keeping them foremost in front of the state. Great news on the Quincy Square sculpture. That looks really exciting. So excited for that project. And I know there's other folks working hard on all the other design elements with historic signage and murals, and so we're really excited to see all that go through. Question on the lighting contract, and I believe the short answer is right, no new lighting, but I was impressed at how much the cost has come down. So kudos to Public Works on working with PSC and that lighting and making it cheaper and faster, like coming in like 10 years earlier. So that is fantastic. On the pre-approval plans for ADUs, I was present at the Kitsap Regional Coordinating Council, which is discussing this. And there is movement on the regional level to try and get coordinated plans across multiple jurisdictions, which would be fantastic. Then developers who work across the whole peninsula don't have to go city by city. They can know that there's pre-approved plans across the peninsula. So if that works out, great. If not, I agree. I think as a city we should keep pursuing it, but there is great progress there. And then yes, I agree. We need more housing to reduce price, housing of all types. Bridge comments. As a cyclist myself, I do want to point out bikes can basically take any sidewalk where it exists. Yes, they yield to pedestrians in the same way cars yield to cyclists and bicyclists and or to pedestrians as well. The Judge Fledge comment, there's no federal funds being received for the bridge at present, so it's just state money. To Mr. Runyon, I do echo the frustration of having all this infrastructure and people power and equipment to inspect the bridge. There But my understanding, there are states that are doing drone inspections and other methods. And so it's just the case that Washington State is not. So I echo that frustration. And also to Mr. Runyon's comment on choosing what I would sum up as choosing the cheapest option, I do want to point out that alternative 1 is more expensive than alternative 7 with the current cost estimates. So the 12x5 is the cheapest at the moment. And to Mr. Simpson's comments, agreed that it's frustrating on the one, just completely doing one side is absolutely the cheapest option. If we can leave the other side as is, WashDOT in the state has told us that's not an option, that due to ADA requirements, that other side has to be widened. And I also go on the frustration if that state regulation is really having the intended effect and the extra money required. And to Ms. Hayes' comments about crossing, I do want to mention connectors have been in the scope of this project, or at least were initially. With the amount of money we got from the state, unfortunately, the money was not there to do the full designs and the connectors. The hope is that there's any money left over, we can continue connectors, and that we'll be applying as a city to future funding opportunities to get those connectors funded. So the connectors are still very much on the table. And just a true thanks to staff, to every single person on this council. Really do appreciate just working hard to get the best bridge for Bremerton. We know Bremerton doesn't always get the best when it comes to other cities in the state. So appreciate everybody just banding together to get the best we can. And the last announcement I have is May 11th, Leadership Kitsap does a series of projects each year. And one of the projects they did is to create historic signage for a lot of our historic buildings downtown, in partnership with the Kitsap History Museum, where I volunteer. And so they're going to be kicking off that project May 11th as a coordinated downtown historic tour. So folks can go from building to building and see the plaque and scan a QR code and get information about the history of Bremerton. So look forward to that. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Next up is District 4, Jane Robleski.
Hello. Well, Jeff covered a lot of the issues that people still had questions about, and luckily a lot of those answers are on the project FAQ sheet. So I encourage everybody to read this package. It's also online so that you can review that. And yes, I would love to have a sit-down meeting with WashDOT, with the Public Works Committee. I think that would be great. We have a lot of questions, and so far they've just been having us go through Public Works instead of us asking them direct. So hopefully that can happen in the near future. Next up tomorrow is my monthly district meeting, and my special guest is Pat McGinney, our fire chief. He's going to talk to us about the reasons that we have such a huge increase in call volume. A lot of it having to do with the fentanyl crisis. But then there'll be an opportunity to talk about other issues going on in the city. It starts at 5 and it goes to 6:30. It's up at the high school in the guidance office. I have it very well signed, so just walk in the main door and anybody in the city can come. You don't have to live in District 4. And then on Saturday, even though some of my best volunteers are going out of state, I'm gonna try to finish the cleanup at Matan Park. There's blackberries there that we're trying to help the Parks Department remove. So anybody who can give up a couple hours, gonna be there from 10 to noon. And I'm getting donuts from Midtown Market that makes their own donuts in-house. So if you need an incentive, if you have gloves and clippers, please bring them. I have some spares. So that's it for District 4 this month. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is District 5, and I am standing in for Counselor Goodnow. Although I really can't fill his shoes, I'm going to try with just these 2 slides. Tuesday, April 16th, the Charleston Monthly District Meeting at Moments in Bremerton. So it looks like it's going to be at 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. with a Zoom option. And then I'm not sure if that link is available, clickable somewhere, but it might be available through the Charleston Business District Facebook page. I'm not sure though.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm glad somebody knows what's going on in District 5. Okay. All right. And then the next slide, we can move on to Forest Ridge Park Stewardship Days. Is the third Saturday of every month. And so this is just an opportunity to go in and clean and help beautify the 27-acre park. Monthly volunteer work days kick off in March, but that's a little outdated because we're in April now. But please feel free to show up at Forest Ridge on the third Saturday of the month and help out and see what you can do to volunteer. Okay, and with that, next up, we have Vice President Mockler with her District 6 report.
Microphone would be handy. Thanks. Next slide, please. So spring has come to Lulu Haddon Park. It's really beautifully mowed. Next slide, please. That's the bathroom in the back. Spring at the basketball court, and between these two beautiful flowering fruit trees is the site of the playground that was removed in October 2022. Next slide, please. And this is a close-up of the playground and the blue cylinder that had drinking water until the pandemic and has not had it since. This picnic table has been painted. That's pretty great. Next slide, please. Cool. So I'm judging on Saturday, April 6th. So I have a really good alibi for not showing up for the Blackberry cleanup at Matan Park. The Washington State Science and Engineering Fair has Bremerton High School. You should come on down. I'm sorry that we are not going to talk to the International Space Station, but really, I personally have never had a postcard from outer space, and I'm pretty psyched for it. Next slide, please. This will be me. So, other things will be happening. But this is the grades 9 through 12 on Saturday and younger grades after that. Next slide, please. Are there more slides? So at this coming town hall on April 8th, Joe Crane of St. Vincent de Paul is going to talk about the plans for at least 110 units of permanent supportive housing for women and women with children at the old St. Vincent de Paul site from 13th and Wyckoff to Callow and really all the way to the alley between Wyckoff and Cambrian. He's going to be taking questions, so I recommend that you come. Next slide. I think that's the end of the slides. Thanks. So just giving you guys a heads up that I heard from a neighbor on May 3rd at 2:30 in the afternoon, the shipyard is going to ring the cranes. They're going to sound all of the cranes' horns for a worker who had 42 years of service and who died on the job, I understand, recently. So if you're jumping out of your skin at 2:30 on May 3rd, that'll be why. I'd just really like to give a shout out to Melinda Monroe, contracts specialist with the city of Bremerton, for her seriously untiring work in furthering a creative and humane solution for the homeless population of Bremerton, and for her explanation to all of us of the advantage of having Common Street do the work that it is doing. There are people who are only looking to protect their property or protect their business, and there are people who only want to protect the rights of the very vulnerable homeless population. City of Bremerton has to do both those things. So the fact that Common Street can do both outreach and enforcement is not the absolutely perfect heavenly solution that could descend from the sky. And it's an excellent solution to as far as what we have in the real world so far. That's really it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, District 7, Eric Younger.
No report, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess I'm last, probably least, but I do have a couple of slides today, which are not the least. They're about some fantastic community events. Okay, this is really tiny. It was supposed to be a little bigger so you could read it, but I was really sad we didn't get singers again today. That was amazing when we had that, but I guess we can't expect that every day. But I may, I'm going on April 12th. It's a Sunday. So if anybody wants to come with me, I'm sorry, April 14th, on a Sunday. So if anybody wants to come with me to the Titanic, I'll see you there. It's at 2:30. April 14th is literally on for dates. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Here.
Matinee.
The matinee. Okay, this is my report.
I'm so
Vice
sorry.
President Mockler. Come on now. All right, wait, hijack my moment. It's my invitation to the public to join me. And I'm looking forward to it and getting a larger sampling of what we had a sampling of at our last meeting. So there's the times, there's the dates. It's playing through May 5th. And then I have one other slide. And that is, okay. I don't know if y'all saw people on March 30th walking around with orange vests on around my district. But every month, starting in this month, last month, March, up until October, we have this huge group of people that meet up at Cafe Perfetto. It's a program sponsored by the county, and they walk around and they pick up garbage in my district. A lot of times they go through the neighborhoods, they go through Stephenson Canyon. And they are like a powerhouse because they just spread and conquer. And I was excited to see them out and sad that my last Saturday off for the foreseeable future, that I didn't know that I didn't have this on my radar. But they meet up at Cafe Perfetto at 9 a.m. You get donuts and a free coffee if there's any incentive. Oh, and a free t-shirt. So, but you also get the satisfaction of knowing that you're making our city more beautiful. And it's a really great community building event. So that's it for slides. And you know, it is just so common for folks who are atheists to also be called communists. This is just like not a new thing. And I think I might be a little sensitive to it because while I absolutely have some socialist values, I am a big proponent of democracy. And I hope that that's very apparent here. And so it's just biased and that's okay, you know, and I welcome it. It's annoying, but also whatever. I signed up for this job. I don't have to get a bunch of accolades and positive praise. I mean, it's nice when you guys come and give us kind words and give us positive feedback. But, you know, like the most valuable feedback is sometimes somebody who's frustrated and angry. And I welcome it and I value it. And so I appreciate the sentiment behind our invocation, although I suppose if you're coming and trying to seek a higher power to say positive things or bring people in to say positive things, maybe you would say positive things at the same time, but that's neither here nor there. We do what we do to invite as many people in and to feel welcome. And I think it's working, as made evidence by this year and last year with the full houses we've seen for public feedback. With that, that's all I have to share tonight. And counselors, I appreciate every single one of you and the tireless work and advocacy you do. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, have a great rest of your day. I'm adjourning this meeting.